Alright, I'm here today with Nate from WASD20, and you guys should know by now, but I am Juice from Tabletop Gaming with Juice. And today, we are going to talk about something that not a lot of people seem to talk about in the community, and that's Christianity and, we'll just say, Dungeons and Dragons. Obviously people know Dungeons and Dragons back in the 80s had a reputation for being a satanic game. My mother, for example, thought it was satanic.
Yep.
My uncle was in the Navy, and she ended up taking all of his books that were in our shed and throwing them out. First edition, second edition, and I guess there were like 3 huge boxes of stuff. I don't know what all he had, maybe some miniatures, I don't know. But she threw it all out. And yeah, she threw out my Hero Quest game twice. So she always thought that stuff was kind of demonic back then. And my mom's not a Bible thumper. So, what are your experiences with this? Have you had anything?
Right, so, I didn't play growing up at all. So I didn't really come into contact with what my parents thought of it. I feel like if I had, my parents would have been pretty open to it. And my parents are, very sincere religious people, I feel like, who take their faith very seriously, very involved in their church. And at the same time, I feel like they would have had an open mind. I mean, I should probably ask them, like, what would you have done, Mom, if I had asked for Dungeons and Dragons for Christmas, right?
Right.
What would have happened? I don't know. Maybe they would have had a negative reaction. But I definitely know, I had a friend growing up whose mom was super paranoid about kind of a lot of things being demonic.
Right.
And
like Ouija boards or something?
Right. Like, I just picked up a lot of this stuff from hanging out with that friend and his mom being very, like, kind of warning us all the time of, like, watch out, there's demons everywhere. And so that kind of actually did have an effect on me. Like, I feel like it did have an effect on me staying away from Dungeons and Dragons, a negative effect, just because I heard a lot of it from her. And I hung out with this friend for, 2 years pretty solidly in middle school. So, yeah, I wonder if it weren't for that, if I would have come to D&D sooner.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. My mom, like I said, isn't really a big Bible thumper or anything like that. I'm a Christian. I go to church with my wife. She grew up in a very super Christian family. They're Episcopal. Her parents always made her go to church no matter what. They had to be to church on Sundays. Never could miss church even if they were sick, pretty much. And when my wife was playing with her siblings, or even before then, her parents thought it was demonic, but they wanted to see what exactly happened. So they agreed with the kids that they would sit down and watch a session of it. And it changed their mind. They were like, oh, there's nothing demonic about it. They're just playing pretend. Yeah. Maybe some of the artwork is questionable and things like that, but it's just pretend. So they became accepting of it and then let my wife play. So yeah, I always thought it was kind of interesting, though, because my mom, we never went to church as a kid. If we went to church, it was with my grandparents. It wasn't because of my mom, and so it was kind of odd that she had this take on it. Yeah. Nowadays, it's kind of funny because, when Christmas comes up, she'll buy me D&D stuff or miniatures or whatever. She bought me some dice this past Christmas. I didn't need dice, but she bought me dice. I was like, okay, cool,
Yep.
But I guess I never understood why people thought it was demonic. I mean, do you have any idea why? I mean, besides the artwork, I mean, I've heard the magic might be a reason for it.
Yeah, so I think it is the magic. That is a big part of it, at least. I think that, the idea, and I don't know what to think of this, the idea that, Christians can call on the power of God in a way, and then that anything that is, well, yeah.
When you pray to your deity and you get magic that night?
Yeah, that's what my church talks about every Sunday. Yeah, so I think that, therefore, if there's anything else that's not calling on God for power, it must be from the other side, the dark side, Satan, right? So I think that's part of it. But I honestly, I think that I had some kind of messed up beliefs about it. I remember when Harry Potter came out, and there's a big stir about Harry Potter, for example.
Oh, really?
That a lot of Christians were boycotting Harry Potter books and saying it's evil, it's satanic, it's because it's witchcraft, right? And I had friends who kind of promoted those ideas. And I think I maybe even believed those very briefly for a while, that we shouldn't be reading Harry Potter books because they're evil. And I was naive and foolish in that. So I think the magic is a big part of it. Other than that, I think that there were just rumors that went around that there's the suicide thing, that there's some people who committed suicide.
Supposedly at Michigan State.
Really?
In our backyard.
There you go. An hour from where we are right now.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's some of that stuff where some people who committed suicide, they found out, they had played D&D, and of course it was ridiculous, because even if they had been super into D&D, that's not the cause of it. They seriously had problems, right? And then we find out now that really they had played D&D like maybe a couple times, like, months ago or a year ago or something like that. So it was all ridiculous, but I think that was part of it too. And then rumors that maybe there were just satanic rituals, that you would become your character or something like that, and you wouldn't be able to separate. I don't know, just weird stuff.
I've heard that too. Like you're pretending you're something you're not, and so it's bad in that way. I don't know. Yeah. I don't agree with that, but you went to a Christian college, Calvin College. Obviously, you go to church and things like that. Your family is pretty religious. Do you know anybody today, maybe through college, or that still might think there's something wrong with role-playing games? Or still has a negative taste in their mouth because of stuff like that?
Yeah, I don't know, honestly. There probably would be some people in my life who, maybe it's just associates from college, or people who... no one I feel like who's really close to me, close friends that I'm still in touch with today, or family members would really say like, "Oh, really? You're playing D&D?" I don't think that would happen. But definitely, I think that there definitely are still people out there who think it's evil.
Interesting.
Yeah.
My one of my at-home games that I play or that I run is for our family, or my wife's family, and her sister-in-law. When we started playing. Because she used to play with my wife back when they played as kids and stuff with her brother. And she had told me to never tag her in anything D&D related on Facebook. She's very active at her church, was really worried about what people would think of her. And, she didn't want to ruin that reputation that she had, that is a pretty good reputation.
Yep.
However... one day she randomly got into a conversation with some people at church that didn't think it was a big deal, and it changed her mindset. Like, go ahead and tag me, it's cool. I enjoy doing it. So, so it was kind of funny, because that was the only experience I've ever had, besides my mom freaking out, with somebody who was concerned about the whole D&D being satanic thing. Obviously there's guys like Pat Robertson on TV that say, oh, it's demonic. And I think even when 5th edition came out, somebody had wrote an article somewhere. I wish I could remember the post. You can probably find it on Facebook or whatever if you just Google Dungeons and Dragons, demonic or something. But it just blows my mind that these people who have never tried it, never witnessed it or anything, can sit there and talk about it like they're an expert that this is satanic. And obviously, because of their position, they're never going to subject themselves to witnessing it, because they don't want to partake in something satanic.
Right.
So...
and the cycle continues.
Yeah, so it'll always be that way. But, I don't know.
Yeah, that's tough. I think, I think we've come a long way, for sure. I do feel that maybe if I had brought it up, for example, in a church community 20 years ago, 30 years ago, for sure, there probably would have been some serious resistance, and I don't feel like there's a very high chance of that happening nowadays. I feel like if I tell someone at church or something like that, or someone who I know who's a very religious person, they're probably gonna think it's just fine.
Yeah, I think so too. I would have no problem bringing it up. Because of where we live, I try not to bring it up on my personal Facebook, because I call this the Bible Belt of Michigan. Obviously, we have Christian colleges like just down the road. A lot of Christian schools. Some of our bigger schools. Our biggest high school over here is a Christian high school, and so it won't affect my job professionally. I try not to bring it up on my personal page. People tag me and stuff all the time. That's okay. But yeah, I don't usually have big discussions on my personal page because of that. So I guess there still is a stigma about it that I try to avoid. But besides that, I have no problem talking about it with anybody. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am going to be trying to get a class going. I teach at a Christian school, and I'm going to try to get a little winterim class next year. And I've talked to you about this. Mm-hmm. That's going to be tabletop role-playing games. And I think one way to approach it is when you are talking about them to say tabletop role-playing games, and you've brought this up with me too, instead of Dungeons and Dragons. Mm-hmm. And it's really stupid that you should have to think about doing that, but for some reason, I think that can make a difference. Maybe if people hear Dungeons and Dragons, they think, ooh, demonic. If they hear tabletop role-playing games, they might think, oh, that's interesting. Maybe I don't really know what that is.
Or collaborative storytelling, or... there's so many different things you can call it besides D&D in order to shake the stigma, especially with people that you think might have an issue with it, like in a school that's a Christian school.
Right.
So are you worried at all about the backlash at all?
Okay, maybe a little bit, yeah. Not very much, though. I think the class will go, I think it'll be approved. I haven't got it approved yet, but I think it will be approved once that process comes, and I think that I don't foresee myself getting any complaints. Do I think there's a chance that I'll get some complaints about that?
Like maybe a kid goes home and says, "Oh, Mom, I played Dungeons and Dragons today. Yeah. That was so cool. Yeah. We need to go buy the books." Or maybe they just go buy the books with their allowance. And then, well, where'd you get the idea to play this? "Oh, Mr. Vandersey told me it was cool."
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would absolutely defend it to parents. I would absolutely defend it to administration, and I would expect administration, actually, the principal and others, to be able to defend me for doing it and to understand that. So I think that's evidence that we've come a long way.
What would be your defense? Angry parent calls. Hey, what are you teaching my kid?
Well, I would want to hear their concerns first, and if it's the things we've talked about, I would probably point to them some helpful articles that I've read that are basically kind of debunking a lot of like the suicide and all this other stuff, the satanic, these myths about D&D. I would point them to some helpful articles to help debunk those. I think I would talk about the benefits of it. And I would absolutely point to kind of two very prominent Christians who wrote about stuff like this, and that is C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien. They were professing Christians who wrote about, fantasy worlds. And I did a video about that. You can check it out on my channel. Yes, I worked a plug in here. Yes.
Learning from the best.
But it's, on secondary worlds and imaginary worlds. I did a video about a month ago. And, they saw the value in that. And so I think there is great value in exploring the spaces of our imagination. And even in role-playing and in kind of playing with morality, we learn about morality and what it means to be human. And so I think that there's great value in it. I would try to point to that too.
I think it helps too with like public speaking and things like that. Especially if you started at a younger age, where people get nervous real easy. Just doing it in a group environment with friends could then lead to being able to do it with people you don't know, which then, if you take from that experience of gaming with people you don't know, then taking it to a wider audience of just talking to people you don't know. Yeah. I think that would be a good progression for people to become better public speakers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I plan to promote those very practical benefits. I think there are, religious benefits, moral benefits, like I said. But yeah, absolutely, those practical advantages and practical, I don't know, what am I trying to say?
Yeah, I know what you're kind of getting at.
Skills, I guess. Practical skills that D&D helps teach.
Do you think it could help kids or anybody to kind of sympathize with somebody else or understand another person's perspective on something?
Yeah.
Because maybe now they can get into the habit of, flipping a switch and thinking like another person or a character. Yeah. Maybe they can apply that to real life too and, seeing, well, why does that person feel the way they do?
Yeah. Absolutely. Empathy, I think, is huge.
Yeah.
That role-playing games can teach you empathy, because whether you're seeing things through the eyes of your character, or whether you're trying to understand the perspectives of NPCs that you encounter in worlds, and big moral questions, I think there's a lot to learn there.
Yeah, I agree. So basically the moral of the story is D&D is not demonic. If you think it is, I guess you're entitled to your opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm sure he would too.
Absolutely.
So comment below, and maybe we'll do a follow-up video for anybody who really thinks D&D or tabletop RPGs are demonic, or video games, or whatever you think might be demonic with these kinds of things. We'll happily talk about it.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
yeah. All right. Well, see you guys next time. Bye. Oh, and plug your channel.
Oh, WASD20 is my YouTube channel. Check me out on WASD20.net.
There you go. And you know where to find me, Tabletop RPG One Shot Group, and RPGjuice.com. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.